Hi, I'm Tony Kramer, Product Specialist with RDO Equipment Company. Welcome to the Agriculture Technology Podcast on RDO Equipment Company's YouTube channel.
Every day, there are phenomenal advancements being made in the field of agriculture technology. RDO Equipment Company is a leader in agriculture equipment and precision agriculture technology and is here with industry experts to bring you the latest news and information from RDO and John Deere. Thanks for joining us on the Agriculture Technology Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This is episode number 98, and today we are going to be talking about Terra software. Before we dive into the show, please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. You can subscribe to the show on the many podcasting apps that we're streaming this to, such as Apple's podcast app. We have it on Stitcher, Overcast, SoundCloud, as well as many others. While you're there, drop us a review. We'd love to hear what you think about the show. Lastly, make sure to follow RDO Equipment Company on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and catch all of our latest videos on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter at RDO Tony K. Now with that, let's get back to the show. I'm really excited to welcome Gwen Brittain, who is the U.S. and Canadian Operations Manager for Precision Terrain Solutions. Thanks for joining us on the show today, Gwen. To get started, I'd like to hear a little bit more about you and your background and how you got involved in this industry.
Thank you, Tony, for having me on today. I really appreciate this opportunity to discuss landforming and water management with you. And I want to give a special shout out to my dirt movers today out there working in the trenches. Be safe. I started in the landforming business, really, back when I was selling tractor-pulled scrapers. And my husband and I own a farm in Stuttgart, and we needed our land leveled. So we had a company come in, a contractor, and level our ground, and we definitely saw a difference in our yields and our efficiency in our farm, so that really spiked more interest. And as I started meeting people in the dirt moving community and my growers who move their own dirt, I worked with Stu Pockney with, at the time, Precision Cropping Technologies, and they asked me to come on board, and I agreed, and I have never looked back. It's great. I love the technology side of the landforming business. And I get to work with all the John Deere dealers in the United States and Canada who are great support for our product.
It's cool that you kind of experienced it firsthand on your farm down in Arkansas, and it kind of spiked your interest and got you going in the landforming industry. You had talked about Stu Pockney, so who kind of introduced you to where you are today. So the company used to be called Precision Cropping Technologies, now is called Precision Terrain Solutions. Tell us a little bit about that company, where they started, and how it got to what it is today.
Okay, so Precision Cropping Technology started by Andrew Smart, otherwise known as Smarty, and of course is still out there today providing great agronomy services. He was developing the software with Stu and they for landforming, and it became so overwhelming actually for just one company. They decided to divide it into two, and that's when Precision Terrain Solutions was formed. That was back in 2015, and then I came on board right at the beginning of 2016 and established an office here for feet on the ground and for support for the United States and Canada. We have released now Terracotta 2 last December, which is our next version of Terracotta, which is basically 2 years of a wish list put together from our users. We have built the software from feedback from the users and their needs. This is a global company, so our software is used on many different farms and applications. So we try to provide a tool for everyone that is out there for water management on their farm. Also, our contractors, of course, they have different scenarios where they might be doing one day a full field landforming, the next day ditching, and possibly then going into civil work. So our software can take you just from the basics all the way up to something more complicated engineering design.
You had mentioned that you guys, Precision Train Solutions, you are a global company. Where do you work? Where you cover the United States and Australia. You have a number of other people, and I believe the home office is in Australia?
Yes, the home office is in Toowoomba.
Okay, interesting. So you guys cover a lot of the world. There's dirt being moved all over in construction, agriculture, everything. You had brought up the new software, the new version of the software, Terracotta, now Terracotta 2. Let's dive in a little deeper to that. Talk about who the target market is, what Terracotta can do, and kind of what those product offerings are.
Well, water management is essential in farming. It can provide the biggest payback. So we want to offer a solution for every farming operation and a way of managing their water. So whether they're irrigating or they're just relying on Mother Nature to bring in the water, we want to provide a way for them to maximize that water and be sure that they are able to find a good balance. So if they get too much water, we want to get it off in an efficient manner. And if they don't have enough water, they're able to conserve every drop. So with the landforming, it can put, for a full field, put maybe a gentle slope to the ground to where the water leaves without causing much erosion. And then you want to also, for your ditches, for them to be able to flow in an even manner and that you don't have ponding and pooling. Water management for farming is something that you see globally, and everyone handles it differently. And if you're using landforming to help you with your water management, you're basically cutting the highs and filling the lows, whether it's across a whole field or in a ditch. So our software, Terracotta 1, did this in a very efficient manner. I mean, it's powerful software, but there were people who were just wanting more. So we accumulated this wish list together, and one of the main things they wanted was to see an as-applied map, and that's what we've incorporated in Terracotta 2, so that it's real-time progress. It shows how much you've cut, what's left to cut. Your map changes as you travel. So your cut fill map of a neutral color will increase more and more, so that way you know when you're finished. Everything is to the design level when you're finished. You have a profile now of the drains as you're driving, and it is important for them to be able to see ahead, to see what maybe big cuts are coming up. Which brings me to the next tool that we added, which is our blade limiting tool, so that you can go in and you can say, I only want to cut a manageable amount on each pass. So you can say, I want to cut 1 or 2 inches each pass, and it will count your passes, and it will lower the blade at each pass until you reach your design height. So that way you're not bogging down the equipment. Those are some of the 2 highlights from our new software, but we've added so much to it. We've added the ability to manipulate your regions more. You can go in and merge regions so that you have a non-linear line for your regions. You're able to also place in pattern drains so that you can have lateral lines placed at a certain distance apart. The list goes on, and I think hands-on and demonstration is the best way to learn. So we have the ability for all our dealers to go out in field and do a full demo at any time for their growers.
That brings up a really great point. So demoing something like this, there's a lot that goes into it. What type of hardware or what technology is involved to run a system like Terracotta 2?
Where for the controls you need iGrade. That controls the vertical height of your blade, and Terracotta takes over iGrade. You do need RTK, so you need an RTK base and receiver. And when you're out implementing, it's best to have your base within a mile, so that way you get your good vertical accuracy. When you're surveying, you can have it further out. than that. Some people are good with up to 12 miles out to their survey base or their tower for surveying, which leads me to the fact that now you can bring in your elevation data collected during other applications as well into our software directly into Terracotta 2. Terra Ditch was released in January, and it also allows you to bring in your elevation data collected during other applications. As I travel and talk to growers, I realize that they may not know that they have this elevation data in their operations center. It's stored there, and they need to make good use of it. So they're able to bring it in and analyze their fields, maybe during an off time, maybe during a winter months when it's slower, and use our rainfall simulator and see where the water is ponding and pooling and what they might can do to help it get off the field and up their yields in the bottom line.
You had mentioned another software or another portion of the software, Terra Ditch, that just released in January. And so that's another thing that I really want to talk about. So Terracotta or Terracotta 2 is kind of the overall suite of software with absolutely everything, all of the offerings. But now you offer kind of a broke down version, which would be a Terra Ditch, which is really here in the Red River Valley. What we really focus on here is not so much the land forming, but more so the ditching, the surface ditches and the drainage in that matter. Let's talk a little bit about Terra Ditch and what that brings to the table.
We listened to our users and our growers and the John Deere dealers up here in the Red River Valley, and they were looking for a solution just for ditching. And although Terracotta does offer the ditching, it offers more tools that they at the time didn't feel like they needed. So we separated out the ditching portion from Terracotta, and that way they can maybe start in just ditching. And if they decide in the future that they want to do more, then they can always upgrade to the full package. And Terracotta, if you have Terracotta, the full package, Terra Design comes with it, which is our desktop software. And that's when you can have more complicated designs, go in, do a little more analysis, also bring your ground into Google Earth so that you can look at it and see where the water's going to flow, when it does leave your ground. I tell people that it's very important when they start thinking about moving dirt, whether it's for ditching or for full field or for subsurface tiling, that they consider their water source, where their water will be coming from, and their outlet. Those are very important when you're starting to make a plan. Where is it all going to go when it does leave the field? And where will it go then further from there? Is it going to go on the neighbor's property? So they need to have a plan in mind. And so all of these tools we provide give them the ability to think it all through and decide what the best plan is for landforming on their property. Terra Ditch offers the Red River Valley auto drains, which is where you can bring in your full field elevation data and let the software calculate where to place drains, where the water is going to leave the low areas the most accurately. And then you can take those lines that it creates and use them as guidance lines. And we are compatible with Gen 4, so they're able to bring in these lines and auto-track them, and then also use iGrade and Terracotta to then do a full ditch project, so they can go in and clean it out, maintain it, or put in a new ditch where they want one to go. So we try to give everyone all the options they need, because everyone moves dirt differently. I always say dirt moving is an art form. There's never one right way to do it. It's the way you need to do it and how it's going to benefit you the most.
Absolutely. It's there's never a one size fits all. It's definitely different for every operation out there, especially across the country and the globe. Everybody does it differently. You had talked about bringing in those elevation maps. One of the things that I thought was really neat is there's many different ways to do that. So one of them is just connecting directly with the operations center and pulling those elevation maps in. But you can also do it in a more traditional manner too, correct?
Correct. You can have your elevation data in an RCD folder that is either saved on your computer or on a flash drive, and you can bring that in. You can also bring in any Surface Water Pro elevation data that you want to. You can bring in a CSV file directly in that maybe you've saved off of Apex. So there's a lot of ways to bring in your elevation data into Terracotta. We're compatible with the files from the John Deere Operations Center. So if you have your username and password, it'll just redirect you to log in, and then it'll start filling in all of your orgs. You can pick your farm. You can pick your application. We tell people to pick an application where their receiver height stays at a constant height. So that's usually planting, tillage. It varies from region to region. And then you can use this elevation data to make a plan for your farm.
And you're also, with that elevation data, you are also compatible with a couple of the other GPS systems out there too, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. So you can bring in data that's been collected with drones, with LiDAR, with some of our competitive software out there for landforming. You can bring that in. We have tried to make our software compatible with just about everything out there anybody can throw at us. So that way they can have value still in some surveys that they've already completed or designs they've already completed. And they can use it in our software to go out and move either full field or ditching or do civil work. Have people who maximize the software to its fullest extent, and then some that just use the basic tools.
So talking about all of the different tools that are offered, another one that I want to touch on here is TerraPlane. Let's talk a little bit about that and what that offers a customer.
Well, there are some people who still use laser systems, and they are very accurate, but they do have difficulties in range. They have a much shorter range than GPS, and they are affected by weather, by wind and dust. You will have to stop working at times. And what we provide with TerraPlane is the ability for these people who own laser systems to go out and survey and create a design, and then they won't be able to implement the design, but with GPS and iGrade, because that's something they haven't invested in yet, but might in the future. But they can go out and drive on this cut fill map that they've created using their laser control system, and they're also able to print out their cut fill map. So it enables them to take more control over their surveying and their designing and then their cut fill maps. And then in the future, if they want to transition into a GPS system, it's an easy transition. They've learned the software, and then they just transition into the full Terracotta.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like the Terra software, everything, the solution that Precision Train Solutions offers is really something for everything or something for everybody. And you did mention that, Gwen, that whether it's somebody that's wanting to purchase the full suite of software in Terracotta, or if they're very similar to here in the Red River Valley, somebody that's just looking for maybe a ditching solution, so they go along with Terra Ditch. And the really neat thing is if you do go and you purchase Terra Ditch, all of the hardware needed is all the same with the RTK receivers, everything. And then they have the ability to just upgrade software. They don't have to buy a completely different software. They just can upgrade to Terracotta, which is really a really neat offering there. The last thing I wanted to touch on, and there's maybe a few people out there that have seen it on the Operations Center, but you guys did offer some Terra tools within the Operations Center, and that is all available within the Terracotta software, correct?
Correct, yes. You would find it in the More Tools section in the Operations Center, Terra Tools. There are many offerings there, and you can access them with an annual subscription. You have Terra Paint. You also have a conversion tool, a way for you to make your data that you've collected in the Operations Center into a value to you. So you've collected it. You can bring it into Terra 3D, create a surface, use the rainfall simulator, and then possibly put in some drains. You can export some guidance lines from there. So there are some offerings there for people who want to use them. They just need to look us up, and they'll find us at tools.t3rra.com.
I know you have so many success stories out there from anybody you've worked with. You've worked with a number of customers and dealerships. You talk about working with all the John Deere dealerships in the United States and Canada. Can you share just a brief success story with us that really has put a smile on your face at the end of the day?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's actually so many because I get great satisfaction in when I talk to a farmer and they tell me that the software has helped them in their farming operation overcome the obstacles they have faced as far as managing their water, and that they have seen an increase in their yields. We would love to see everyone benefit from it, but some benefit more than others depending on how they use it. So I have growers just across the United States and Canada that I have been able to visit with one-on-one, and they tell me that when they brought their elevation data in, especially like from the Ops Center, and just to look at it, it gave them a clearer view of what they needed to do. They were guessing before, and some people think that eyeballing it works, but usually it doesn't. And they need to be able to bring that data in, look at it in 3D, use our rainfall simulator, and make a plan. I have a grower in North Carolina who started using the software just around the time that I started with the company. So I've watched him progress with it. And he would tell his workers out when they're harvesting to drop a flag anytime the yield would get below a certain amount. And then take that data and those maps where they have the flags that where the yield dropped and compare it to their elevation data they collected and see where these problems are, and then go in with the Terra software and clean out ditches, create a ditch from a low area to make it drain, and also do some full field land forming. And he said he wants his yields across acre to acre, to be the same, to be consistent, and that Terra software has definitely done that for him. It's very rewarding when I travel to talk to the users, so I'm always wanting to hear stories. And so if anyone wants to send one out to me, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, and people can connect with you on Twitter, correct? What?
Yes.
Your Twitter handle?
Terra USA.
There we go.
T3RRA USA, by the way.
That's a unique one. Yep. Terra T3RRA is how Terra is spelled. So where can people go? Who can they talk to learn more about Terra software and everything that you guys offer?
Well, they need to talk to their local John Deere dealer because our software is sold and supported exclusively through John Deere. So number one, talk to them. And then if they, for whatever reason, are not familiar with us, because we've tried to get the word out, have them call me directly and shoot me an email, or my phone number is right there on the internet on our website at pts-ag.com. And you're able to connect with us one-on-one at times, and then I will find your John Deere dealer that you can buy the software through, and they'll provide their extraordinary support like always.
Like you said, Gwen, land forming, dirt moving, there's definitely an art to it. You talked in your success stories, some of those guys that have been doing it they've been eyeballing it for years, and now there is so much when it comes to technology and softwares and things that can help do that, no different than anything else in the ag industry. So I want to thank you very much for sitting down with me today and kind of going through this and talking about something I can tell you are very passionate about, the landforming. So it's really neat to hear your experiences and what you guys offer with Terra software.
Thank you, Tony, for having me. And I appreciate being able to be on here. And once again, a shout out to my dirt movers out there in the trenches working. Everyone be safe.
Thanks again for listening. Subscribe to this YouTube channel for upcoming podcasts, or visit rdoequipment.com/podcast to listen to new episodes and catch up on any that you've missed. You can also listen and subscribe to our podcast on any device or streaming service so that you will never miss out on the latest news and technology from RDO Equipment and John Deere.